Well, welcome back to the shed and the use of this. I've done a little bit already. I forgot to set the camera going, and what I've done is I've turned down the end of this piece of 50mm bar to 1.5 inches, which is the same diameter as the insert on the top of the tool post. I've set the top slide over to cut the bevel. I've got the compressor running, and I've done, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this down to 1.5 inches. So the way I've done this, I've set the top slide over, I've reset the tool holder so that's square, and I'm just going to take that down, and then I'm going to come in and start to put the bevel on the top edge. The bottom of this has been drilled, faced, tapped out to 5/8 UNC. So we're part way there. I'm going to remember to put this down, which hides that altogether, so I won't do that. And let's do a little bit of cutting. That's on there. Oh, let's take that up a little bit. That's on 570. Let's go 770. I'm still awaiting the bulbs to arrive for that. Okay. Don't like that. That's not doing anything worthwhile. Let's take that to and that is just literally doing long strips. Cut 160 thou. It's going to wrap it round the cut. That's on 0. Let's grab the caliper. $1787, so 230 odd to come off. So let's look at where we are. LR8 LS8W. That should be a 10 thou cut per revolution. Let's just go in, take 100 thou off the diameter. Let's give it a little bit of a squirt of lubricant. wrapped around everything, isn't it? Let's do that. I don't want to touch that. That's a little bit on the warm side. So that was taking 237 thou off at a pass. So it's 2 passes and we're down to what is effectively depth. So what I now need to do, I'm going to go down take about 1/4 inch off here. That's about how far I want to take it down. This is all being done by eye. Take that on, let the speed up, we go to 1,000. Oh, excuse me. Well, that is about that. That will sit up there, enable me to get a handle on that piece, drill it in at 20 degrees, tap 1/2 inch, and then put a hand on the end. Now have washer, thrust bearing and washer, and that is about 6 thou over the depth. So you've got 6 thou clearance at the bottom here, so that sits there quite nicely. Then this sits down there, and in fact that's actually not bad even by hand, that holds it quite well. Right, so what I'll need to do is drill a hole about there so that when I pull it down it will sit further back. So I'll grab a pen and I'll mark that, and then I'll go off and drill and tap that hole for 1/2 inch, and then make a 1/2 inch handle to do it. turned this rather large bolt down. Lovely steel, but God, it doesn't like being cut over much. I've put a die over each end, 10mm at this end, 12mm thread at that end, which will match the 12mm thread in here. And I'm now going to give a try to something else, and that is the taper turning attachment. So I've got it at what I think is about the right angle. I've run a dial gauge along it and it's come in by 2mm, which is approximately what I want. I want 11mm at this end, 13mm at that end. Now I've got this tool is just off of the work. So what I'm going to do is start this up. I'll move that over there out the way for the moment. And I am just simply going to run the tool down under power. It might help if I set this on a speed, mightn't it? Oh well, 570 seems reasonable. I'm just going to run it down there and see what happens. It should move across. Moving away. So, good. So I'm going to take a small cut on this. See how we go. And I'm getting a taper. Okay, that's gone down there. Take that back. Take another 1/2 mil off. it certainly saves setting the tailstock over and then resetting it again afterwards. Well, for a first trial on that, I'm quite happy. And that will do the job. So next thing is get some emery cloth. I'll run this at a higher speed and I'll see if I can get a slightly better surface finish on that. And then that is the first bit done. Okay, I'm reasonably happy with that. Let's turn that off. And I will need something to grab that with, hopefully without doing any damage. Okay, one tapered arm, one 10mm nut, now sitting on the back of it. Right, well that will certainly do me for the time being until I can take that off and smooth it down. I now have a workable release lever on there. Good. So that's the first job. Let's have a get down and have a bit more of a look at it. So we've now got the first job on the lathe, making its own release for the quick change tool post. Good push, that will swivel round. And that's that. Good, solid, done, finished. I can go away and do some bits and pieces. Well, welcome back to the shed, and I'll just do a very quick roundup of what we've just done. You've just seen this whole lot being done, so it's just turning, taper turning down a rather nasty long 28mm bolt. I'll just show you what that started off as. One of them. Yeah. Right. Taper turning attachment is working quite nicely. I have, however, found an issue, and that is a bit of backlash in the cross slide, so I'll need to deal with that. But I've had a couple of people comment about the taper turning attachment on this. So I think what I'll do is I'll do a very quick explanation of how this actually works. Setting the taper is reasonably simple. You make sure this is in the centre of the taper turning attachment itself, because that's where it pivots, and you've got a pivoting thrust block on the back here. Now that does two things, and I'll come back to that in a minute. So what you do is you undo or loosen off the two Allen screws there, and then on the back you have got an adjustment screw which will pivot this end around, or it pivots around the centre, but it's controlled at this end. So you just screw it in or out to move it across. You've got some degrees there marked up and inches per foot of taper. So that's relatively simple. You can set it that way, and if you use something like a dial gauge, move it a set distance and you can read off how much movement you're actually getting on the cross slide. But the taper turning attachment doesn't move all the time. It only moves when it's locked off to this locking or torque bar, as I assume it would be called. That drops down. It will move backwards and forwards along the back of the bed, and you just tighten it down with those two Allen bolts here. Drop that arm down. That is tied off to the back of the bed using the Allen bolt here, and then that will lock the base of the taper turning attachment in place. When you do that, that doesn't move, and but the saddle will travel up and down it, and the cross slide is attached to the angle section of the taper turning attachment, and the pivot block I mentioned slides on that and slides in and out. Now, unusually for many lathes, when you move the cross slide through here, you've got the normal nuts there, but it is not anchored at this end. At this end, the feed screw slides on splines inside there. It's actually anchored at the back. That pivot block has got nuts and two thrust washers which lock the feed screw against it. So as you move the carriage with the taper turning attachment locked in place, as you move along, the whole of the cross slide and the feed screw move with the taper turning attachment, and you can adjust the feed or the cut using the feed screw, because as you turn that, it remains locked off at the back and you move the cross slide in and out. So you don't need to use the top slide to put cut on when you're using the taper turning attachment. You can just use the feed screw. And where that is really going to come in useful is if I have to make anything or adjust anything like a washout plug which has a tapered thread on it. So I can use the taper turning attachment and put the cut for the threading on with this, which will be really good. So that's how that works, and it's a nice, relatively simple, you haven't got to keep attaching, detaching, it's just literally attaching that bar in the place you want it, locking it all off, and then the taper turning attachment will work. The other little job I did is to make the missing arm for the aim-jest unit, and again fairly simple. Well, if I unscrew this little plastic handle I made, I had some delving around, so it's quite useful for that. All I've done is I've turned that down, drilled it 9.5mm, which is the same size as the spigot on here that I've made, tapped it 12mm to match that thread, and bored out a small section at 1/2 inch to go over there, and that just screws on. The other end, it is a 1/2 inch hole, or it's actually very slightly under, about 2 thou under. I've just taken that down with a little bit of emery, so it's a nice slide fit, and then I set it up in the 3-jaw. I put the knurling tool on a fine knurl, and I've just knurled the leading 1/4 inch. And when you knurl, of course, it presses in, but it also presses out, so it gives a slightly greater diameter, and that enabled me to push it in and tap it in, so it's held in nice and tight. It will come out if I want it to, but it's not going to wobble and fall out. So that's the ingest done. Well, actually no, because it doesn't quite work, but I think I found out what that is. This won't actually lock up all the way and stay locked up, and according to the manual, and a big thanks here to Tony at lathes.co.uk, I purchased the ingest manual and the lathe manual from him. It says that the problem with it not rising up, not locking up, is that there's muck in the half nut. To get to the half nut, I need to undo 3 screws, take this cover off, take that off, remove the control lever, undo 3 Allen head bolts, and extract it from the back. So I'm going to have to do that. It's designed to be an easy job, because to get to anything on this, especially the half nut, you need to remove it, because the half nut goes in from that side and there's a bit of a lathe in the way. So my next little job is going to be sorting out the ingest unit. But first work on this is now done. Happy with what I've got, and I look forward to working on the ingest, getting that sorted out, and then the whole of the lathe will be in running order. So that's it from Dad's Shed for the moment. I look forward to seeing you on the next one, which is the ingest, and I hope you've enjoyed this visit to Dad's Shed. Don't forget, like and subscribe please, it helps a great deal, and I'll see you on your next visit to Dad's Shed. Cheers.